Hey guys, it's Norm. I'm here with
Adam.
and we are in your man cave.
We are in my man cave.
So obviously you have a ton of cool things in your man cave, ongoing projects, and we're here to talk about this one. This looks a little familiar.
This is familiar, and this actually, of all the projects I've currently got going on, this is the oldest.
Oh.
I started being obsessed with this is the gun called the ZF-1.
Zorg Industries.
The Zorg Industries ZF-1 from The Fifth Element.
Yeah.
It's got like 1 million weapons on it. You can see Gary Oldman demoing all the things, those web shooter, flamethrower guns, and all of that stuff. And I wanted one right after the movie came out. So somewhere around 1999, I started hunting around on the web for someone who could help me
make a replica.
I'm still working on it. It's 13 years later. I've made several close friends. I joined the Replica Props Forum because of friends I made. And it actually is kind of a sad story. It has a weird bump in the road.
So back 10 years ago when you were just starting making this, you just took photos from the movie, whatever promotional photos were available.
Well, more than that, actually, what I noticed in the movie, I'm going to spin this around here. What I could see in the movie when I found photos was that this piece right here was familiar to me. And it was familiar because it was the nozzle on the gas torch that I had in my toolkit.
That's the flamethrower part of the ZF-1.
Yes, and I thought, I can build this gun because I know what that part is. I can scale everything off of that part. So I began to, and I took screenshots after hundreds and hundreds of screenshots, laboriously sat there and made 3D files of each one so I could see how they placed. I worked out all the geometry of the infrastructure that held everything in place. Then I went and machined one of each thing, and each one was slightly wrong once I got it all together, so I remachined everything again.
They didn't use the same prop for all shots.
I could see that there were several different shots, right. So there's ones when he's actually shooting bullets, there's actually an eject hole right here because they actually put a modified AK-47 inside the thing. The flamethrower one has different grips. Yes, there are many differences between the gun that you see in the film. It changes many times. So that probably comprises like 7 years of research. And then last year at Comic-Con, but the guys who I love from Prop Store of London, I believe, had one of these real ZF-1s.
It was the real prop from the movie, the only time it's been shown in public.
None of us had ever seen one in the wild or ever gotten access to one. And I mean us, I mean there's a big crew of ZF-1 fanatics out there.
And it was the flamethrower model.
It was, yeah.
And there was the nozzle at the end where you could attach the nozzle to a gas pack, and you saw it there, so you picked it up.
Well, and one of the most disappointing things about seeing a prop that you've been obsessed with for that long in the wild is what you got wrong. One of the most rewarding things is seeing what you got right. My dimensions are all off a little bit. I have noticed, being me now, I have some access to some things that I wouldn't have had 10 years ago. And so when I see props and get to hold them where I've only built them from screenshots, I notice that I have a tendency to build things about 10% too large.
Is that how things are in film usually?
There's some reason. Well, also I think it's an artifact of parallaxing in the camera that I don't necessarily always account for. If it's not in the center of frame, perhaps I should be adding or subtracting dimensional measurements from it. So at any rate, there are some guys in the Replica Props Forum who had access to that prop for a while, and so I've been purchasing machine parts from them. Because I basically abandoned my ZF-1 because although it was nearly complete, it's wrong on almost every front in tiny little ways, and I strive for accuracy. So this is my new ZF-1 in mid-construction.
All right, and so these are parts, like for example, this shell here is something you bought from the forum, someone else who had access to the model. They took photos of it.
Yes.
I mean, you weren't on the convention floor taking 500 photos of...
I did go onto the convention. Actually, so last year at Comic-Con, every year at Comic-Con I walk the floor in costume. Often the costume's too cumbersome for me to visit things that I really want to see. So last year at Comic-Con, I just walked out on the floor with the camera and I walked all the way over to the booth and I held it and I took pictures with it. I use Arnold Schwarzenegger's trick about when you're famous and you don't want to get stopped, just never stop moving. And at Comic-Con, it's literally like being a shark. Like you just move, 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 move. And if you stop, they actually start, the organizers start to yell at you for clogging things up. So I never stopped moving, got all the way to Prop Store, took pictures with it, ran back to my room, put on a costume, and then hit the floor again.
Awesome. Wow, so how far along is this model?
This is fairly far along. There's a lot of work to do to shape I have only just put the shell on the outside of this, and it needs some customizing. The bottom shell and frame need to be fitted to each other. That's a couple of hours of work. There's some internal framework that needs to be done to put the gun handle into this. There's electronics work to do. I actually have 2 separate sets of electronics.
You got to have the red button.
Here's the red button. It is actually totally accurate. And it's funny because I had actually also sourced my own red button, and while I had gotten pretty darn accurate, this guy did better. He had found a much better one.
Yeah.
And and when you're buying buttons like this, actually, it ends up being, it's not like you can go to a switch store and say, I want a button. You actually have to go and spec what's the voltage that it can handle? What is the voltage of the lamp in it? What is the color of the lamp? What is the angle of the bevel? And so when you order, it's not even that you're ticking boxes. You actually have to read this whole chart and tell them, I want an E9 131 245 16 12 volt, and when you get all that, they send you, hopefully, the right switch.
And still not as perfect as what
And
someone
it's still
else.
wrong. Yeah, it's still wrong. That is the story of my prop collecting life. You work really hard and it's still kind of
So
off.
will this model be operational with the flamethrower, with the net?
I toyed around with the idea of making it airsoft friendly and being able to fire airsoft pellets from it. I have some airsoft guns that are prop guns, and it's just not that thrilling to be able to shoot something out of it.
There's no recoil.
Not in the way you'd think it would be thrilling. So quite honestly, what I think I might do is make this one so that this back part, the viewer comes up like this, that I'll do the arrow shooters that come out like this. I will actually add that functionality in, and of course it'll have the full electronics and maybe sound effects. We'll see with the sound effects. The work that he did is really, really beautiful, though. It's totally exciting to have seen that somebody else is also as obsessed as I am and be able to reap the reward.
But it's not a race at all.
No. It's a total collaboration. They were having trouble with, this whole thing has a blue finish on it. And they were having trouble replicating the blue finish. They tried anodizing, they tried painting, and nothing was working. And the trick was that as a machinist, I actually knew what the blue finish was, and it's called marking fluid. When you are, I wonder if I have some here. When you are machining something and you want to make marks on your metal for, like, I'm going to machine up to this line. What you do is you spray it with a clear blue lacquer called marking fluid. They also make it as a red lacquer. And now you can actually buy these in a spray can. And it's basically, it's a very thin coat. It dries really quickly, but you can etch in it. You can make notes. So for a machinist, it's a kind of an invaluable tool for seeing where you're going. It also happens to be the way they colored these blue. And I knew it because I see how marking fluid wears at the corners. So they were like wondering how to do the blue, and they were asking me, and I said, I thought marking fluid, and they tried it, and they're like, bingo, that's exactly right.
So you need kind of weathering on that.
Exactly. So I love the replica props forum because it ends up being a real collaboration between fanatics.
Well, we'll definitely have to come back later and check up on the progress on this.
12 years
Hopefully not another 12 years later.
Maybe another year. I could not possibly hazard a guess.
Cool. Well, thank you, Adam. And we'll be back with more from Adam's Man Cave.
You will.
See you.
Next time.